Welcome to Postscript, where we try to talk about movies and just end up ranting about neoliberalism most of the time. I'm Tori, and I prepare and guide each episode.
And I'm David, and I have no clue about what movies we're discussing today, but I'm ready to rant about neoliberalism.
Well, I'm hoping we're gonna get away from that a little bit with this episode. A little bit, we'll see. In this season, we're going through the highest grossing, most popular, and most mainstream movies that came out throughout the Great Recession that focus on the economy, class, wealth, poverty, and employment. And we're seeing if the mainstream view of these things changed during that time, and if so, what they changed into. Last episode, we talked about 2010, and this episode, we're moving on to 2011. Okay, so continuing with my timeline. So I hate the whole framing of the thing as a recovery, but putting that aside, if we take the scale of the worst to the best for people post-crisis, the US was already over the worst by 2011, whereas Europe would hit the worst in the next few years. The rest of the world really, really varied. I hate to summarize it like that, but we have a lot to get through. So we covered the right-wing response last episode, which was mainly austerity. And so this episode, we're going to do the left-wing response. Starting in 2010 and going through 2011, there were massive protests all over the world, responding to all kinds of problems exacerbated by the financial crisis, like inequality, unemployment, corruption, etc. The Arab Spring happened in 2011, as well as protests in Europe, Asia, Latin America, pretty much all over the world. People were really pissed. You could argue, still are. In the US, 2011 was the peak of Occupy Wall Street. It also inspired a more global Occupy movement. So the Occupy movement used the slogan, "We are the 99%," and had a very broad set of grievances and demands that varied a lot by city and country. Also, I should say, being pro-regulation and being pro-reform was mainstream at the time. It was a very mainstream Democrat thing to do at the time, from what I recall, and just looking at sources, to support them verbally from a distance, from arm's length, but I think it was still an extremely fringe thing to actually be there participating in it. To be out in the streets protesting the system was not a mainstream liberal Democrat thing to do.
Yeah.
Going back and listening to some of Obama's speeches from the time is interesting because, this economic populism and reform was a big part of his message rhetorically. And also, I think I've come to think more of the Democratic Party as a party that's driven by power, but uses the politics to drive that power. And part of its coalition is the left, the actual left-wing people. And so they do have some policies that align with that,
Yeah.
And so it's not as if nothing happened during that time to address these, but they could never go far enough. And that kind of, I think, aligns with this idea of supporting the Occupy movement rhetorically, but also it's still being considered a little too far, a little extreme to actually be out there in the streets. Protesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I remember that was a very interesting thing visually, that if you remember Obama's campaign design, his posters, was this sunrise kind of symbolism, and that resembled classic socialist propaganda.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a very interesting thing to see. I don't think he ever used the word socialist. I don't think he was far more careful than that. And I remember being very surprised by it. that they are aiming for something like that.
Just a couple disclaimers before we move on to the actual movies. One thing I wanted to note was that by 2011, it took until number 16 down the list of top grossing movies worldwide to get to a movie that wasn't like fully CG Fantasyland. Something that wasn't a Marvel movie or like a Pixar style animated movie or family movie or some franchise, some fantasy franchise.
It was already a thing.
It was already completely a thing by 2011.
Well, that's interesting because I think that kind of safe mentality and not taking any risks and focusing on projects that already have an audience no matter what. I always thought that that type of mentality in Hollywood was also triggered by the financial crisis.
I was thinking the same thing. Also, people's desire to just like escape into Fantasyland could also be, and also desire for a hero. I think that we could have a whole other podcast season trying to relate like superhero movies or fantasy to this, and we're going to kind of have to put it aside because that's just too big of a topic on its own. But it's an interesting note that this was kind of the rise of that as well. So we have 4 movies to cover this episode. I'm not going to include full trailers in the episode this time because we just have too much to get to and those take a long time and people can always watch them if they want to. But I might pause to show you the trailers. I'll also link the trailers in the show notes. The first 2 movies we're going to do are, we're going to go through pretty quick. They're more like honorable mentions. Then there's a slightly longer one, and then there's the main one at the end. Okay, so the first movie we're going to talk about is, well, I know I said I was going to stop ranting about neoliberalism. This one I'm going to continue ranting about it. The first one is a French film, The Untouchables.
The Untouchables, which one is that?
According to Letterboxd, you've seen it.
Oh, I barely remember.
Okay, want to watch the trailer?
Yes.
Okay.
Alors, c'est Dieu ça, non?
Ça, c'est autre chose, ça c'est sûr.
Ah ouais, hein?
It was the 16th highest grossing movie worldwide in 2011. The second highest grossing French film ever at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. It was made for $10 million. It made $426 million.
Wow, I had no idea. It was just a random movie that was on TV when I visited my parents in Hungary. I never realized that it was such a big deal.
Yeah, I had never seen it before doing this episode. It was a huge, massive hit basically everywhere in the world except the US. But honestly, I just think that's because Americans don't read subtitles.
Yeah, just subtitles. Yeah.
I mean, a little more now, but at that time, not at all. So that's got to be the main reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was apparently a giant cultural moment for France, this movie.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I had never even heard of it. So
it's so funny because I think I would have watched it more critically if I knew that it was such a big deal. I watched it was on TV, and it was just like,
it looks low budget, so you would think that maybe it's just like an indie movie.
Yeah, while I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, some feel-good Hallmark shit.
Yeah.
It did not. I did not receive it.
That's fair.
I did not receive it as social commentary.
Yeah, that's kind of the quality. No, actually, it's a pretty well-made movie as like a really light, funny movie. I mean, on a surface level, I get why it's appealing. Okay, quick summary. So it's about the heartwarming and unlikely friendship between a Parisian man named Philippe, who's paralyzed and lives his life in a wheelchair, and his caretaker, Driss. And why is their friendship unlikely? Because Philippe is wealthy, aristocratic, white, old money, portrayed as sophisticated and high class. Driss is basically homeless, black, young, an immigrant, portrayed as unsophisticated and low class. The movie depicts Driss as this guy who's irresponsible and immature, but deep down he's actually a caring, capable, hardworking person. And it's just because he's become lazy and unmotivated because of welfare benefits.
Whoa, holy shit. That's what the movie's saying, though?
I mean, that is the plot. Like, it's, yeah, because he's getting welfare benefits. He goes to his house so that he can get him to sign a paper saying that he looked for a job, even though he's not actually looking for a job. And then Philippe he sees his potential and decides to give him a chance, even though he doesn't ask for one. And then at the end, after Driss has proved his work ethic and become a contributing member of society, Philippe praises him and actually says, after all the hard work, you've earned your benefit, as in his welfare benefit.
Wow.
Even though Philippe is filthy rich and inherited his money.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing.
But I think this movie thinks it's being progressive or frames itself as being progressive, or the people watching it can say, oh, I'm watching this and I approve this message and I'm progressive too, because it's clearly meant to be against racism and prejudice. Like there's a bad guy racist character, you know, who's shown in contrast with Philippe's open-mindedness. Also because Driss like improves Philippe's life, mostly by showing him how to like chill out and party. Mm-hmm. Which is a stereotype, but whatever.
So it's also making that kind of like showing that hyper individualistic statement that racism happens because of racist individuals and not because of systemic things.
Yeah, right. And you can watch this movie and say like, oh, I'm not like that bad dude in the movie who's racist. I'm like the good dude in the movie who's not racist. And that's how we can feel good at the end of this movie.
Wow.
You know, but from a class perspective, Driss isn't just poor. I mean, this is just another layer that I'm noticed after watching it. Like, he isn't just poor. He's from Senegal, which is a former French colony. So, like, his poverty and his need for welfare isn't unrelated to Philippe's generational wealth.
Not at all.
So, like, from that perspective, Driss doesn't just deserve a chance to earn welfare benefits. He deserves as much as Philippe has. I'm just saying that this movie has that neoliberal worldview. And you're supposed to walk away feeling warm and fuzzy because someone gave Driss a chance to prove himself, and he proved himself, and, you know, now he's no longer succumbing to the decadence of welfare benefits. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it just never takes that step back to say like, hey, this whole situation is pretty fucked up to begin with.
Yeah.
Or to critique the system in any way. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's noteworthy so far, and I'm not trying to like defend America here at all, but I think it's interesting. Like, we've had 2 non-American films so far in this and Slumdog Millionaire. Mm-hmm. French and British. And they're both, I would say, very neoliberal movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my point is just that, like, it's showing how dominant this ideology was everywhere in the West.
Yeah, because the whole story of the 90s was that in Europe, all the left-wing parties adopted to neoliberal policies. You could name a few countries that still had a decent left wing, but in general, the left wing just disappeared completely. Like, you know, like Tony Blair, mm-hmm. like turned the Labour Party mm-hmm. into a full-on right-wing neoliberal party mm-hmm. with just slogans that are still somewhat related to the working class.
Interesting. Well, yeah, that was The Untouchables. Mm-hmm. All right, the next movie, also going to be a quick one. It's Horrible Bosses. Remember this one?
I've seen it once.
You did see it?
I did. I thought it would be a fun movie while I was high and I was looking for a movie that could be fun to watch while I'm stoned. And it was not a good idea. I remember it was painfully unfunny.
It's very stupid. It's an American comedy, has a bunch of stars including Kevin Spacey, Jennifer Aniston, Colin Farrell, who are the three horrible bosses. Want to watch the trailer?
Sure.
Bro, what is your projected outside date of completion, motherfucker?
It was the 33rd highest grossing movie worldwide.
Holy shit.
I partially wanted to mention it because it did extremely well for its budget. Better than people expected it to do. And I do think that a lot of that is owing to, well, as you're saying, not the humor being extremely hilariously funny, but because of this theme and message. And I'll go back to the marketing a little bit later. Pretty straightforward plot. 3 friends have horrible bosses. They plot to kill them. That's it. I think this movie was so successful financially because it related to a lot of people's real life workplace experiences in kind of like a fun, escapist, wish fulfillment fantasy kind of a way. So it's introducing some new themes that I want to highlight, notwithstanding the fact that this movie is not funny and it's really stupid. It does have some interesting themes that are new for our journey. One is just worker solidarity.
It's not like we're gonna actually kill our bosses.
Good. Though you would have to admit that our lives would be a hell of a lot easier if our bosses weren't alive.
These 3 working people conspire to kill their bosses because they're all spending a lot of time at the bar talking to each other and relating to each other about their struggles. There's another movie that isn't really even worth talking about much, also from 2011, called Tower Heist, with Ben Stiller and Eddie Murphy.
Wow, that sounds like a guarantee for a great movie.
Was also in the top 100 at least, if not higher than that. But I just mention it because it also has a lot of themes of worker solidarity, which is kind of new.
Come on! Let's storm the castle together. Oh, like when they went after Frankenstein.
No, it's a different kind of storming. It's a storming where the peasants take everything back, from like the feudal lords and...
I'm in.
That's from Tower Heist. Another thing Horrible Bosses shows is how those in power exploited the unemployment of the financial crisis to take advantage of vulnerable people. And at least in the US, how few protections workers actually had to get out of horrible workplace situations.
I've been in that position for 8 years now. Why would I stay here after being treated like this?
Well, because I'd make sure that nobody in the industry would ever hire you again.
Bullshit.
No, because they're going to want my letter of recommendation, right? So I'm perfectly willing to write that you are an insubordinate, dishonest drunk.
Just like that power that bosses have over not only your current situation, but your future situations. Unlike other movies we've seen, this movie shows how few choices most people actually have. Also, it does challenge the meritocracy idea a little bit. It shows how in free market capitalism, money and power don't just trickle down naturally, but they get consolidated at the top.
I have finally decided who I want to be our new senior vice president of sales. He's right here in this room. It's me. However, I will only be taking 85% of the additional salary I'm entitled to, and that is self-sacrifice, people.
Just expanding his own position to have more money and power rather than it trickling down. It is shown in the movie.
So it's starting, or it aims to form some kind of criticism, but doesn't it still feel very individualistic? Just by the title, like Horrible Bosses. It's not systemic criticism, but more like, oh, some bosses are horrible, it's just a few bad apples. Like, is it like criticism towards capitalism, or criticism towards neoliberalism? Or it's just some personal revenge on the bad guys without acknowledging what's causing this hierarchy?
Yeah, I think you're pointing out exactly one of the problems with this movie and why it doesn't actually fall into the category of being in like a very different, even though it's introducing some new themes, it kind of does that all at the beginning of the movie. It's introducing all these problems that people can relate to, but it ultimately just devolves into this dumb hangover-esque comedy, and it doesn't really end up saying very much about anything.
Yeah. Also, it seems to do this very common misunderstanding that it's still today very, very common, particularly in the US, that people don't really see the difference between billionaires and upper middle class. They're talking about, like, Jennifer Aniston, her character, she's a dentist. That's upper middle class shit. Like, they're not the ruling class. They're not the 1%. So even if it was not this individual revenge, like, the middle class is not the problem. It's not where the problem is. It's just when we look at an upper middle class person, we realize that they have so much money that we never gonna have. And that's what we associate with rich people who have, like, multiple cars and a boat, and they have expensive hobbies and stuff like that. But that's not the top 1% at all. Like, it's thousands and thousands times more of that. We're talking about, like, the budget of a mid-sized country versus a doctor.
So funny you say that, because we're going to come back to that with the next movie, and we're really going to drive that point home. And yeah, but it's a really good thing to point out with this movie is that we're talking, at least with her character, for example, and the other one. Like, who knows about Kevin Spacey's character?
I don't know about Kevin Spacey, but that's still, you know.
But even then, yeah,
he's still
it's like,
not. He's not. I doubt Kevin Spacey's character is a billionaire. He's just C-level. You know, like he's just one of the suits.
Yeah. But we will come back.
But even when we talk about billionaires, we talk about the evil billionaires, and we have to take revenge on them. Like, you know, you could get rid of all of them, and capitalism would regenerate the exact same issue.
You're bringing up so many themes that are going to be major themes for the rest of this episode.
Okay. Well, please keep it in to showcase how smart I am.
I always do.
Yeah, thank you.
There's one more... I didn't finish my list of themes that they bring up in this movie, and I want to just go back to this one because I'm going to show you the clip because it's actually a pretty funny moment. This is challenging the idea that if you work hard, you'll climb the ladder and eventually get to the top yourself.
My grandmother came to this country with $20 in her pocket. She worked hard her whole life and never took shit from anyone. When she died, she had turned that $20 into $2,000. That sucks.
So in the end of that movie, they don't kill their bosses. They do rid themselves of their bosses in various ways. In one of the cases, the horrible boss goes to jail, but then another horrible boss just replaces him.
Turns out my new boss is a twisted old fuck.
That seemed like a nod to the idea that this isn't just about individuals, that it's actually more systemic, because he just gets replaced by another shitty boss. But to your point, one of the other storylines is like more about just revenge.
That felt good!
I knew you knew this was coming. I think we're going to start seeing revenge against individual rich people. Or individual powerful people as a theme start to come up. This is the first time we're seeing it come up. I mean, here it's like half revenge and half just them trying to get rid of the problem, which is different than just pure revenge for its like own sake alone. But we should keep an eye on this theme because to me, and it sounds like to you as well, like that's kind of the opposite of the systemic message. Because then it's just about individual people. And yeah, this movie kind of just does everything. It throws everything at the wall and it doesn't seem committed to either message, really. All right, the next movie is In Time. Any idea what this is?
No.
I hadn't seen it. I don't think you've seen it, but, you know, of course, it's like the 43rd highest grossing movie worldwide in 2011. It's a sci-fi action movie starring Justin Timberlake, Amanda Seyfried, I don't know how to say her name, Seyfried, I guess, and Cillian Murphy. Let's watch the trailer.
I didn't start the clock. I can't turn it back. I keep it running. I keep time.
The trailer looks cheesy, but it appears like it's at least trying to deal with class.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, this trailer is way more like lefty radical than the American trailer is, this international trailer. So yeah, it's an American movie. It was written and produced and directed by Andrew Nicol, who's from New Zealand. And then he lived in London a long time. That might explain the relatively lefty messaging for Hollywood. This guy also wrote The Truman Show, and he wrote and directed Gattaca. Truman Show.
Oh, I was going to mention Gattaca because it felt like...
I never saw it.
It felt very, just by the trailer, it felt very similar to Gattaca.
Really? Okay. Any similar themes with that?
Like the character of Justin Timberlake is like, he's not part of the elite, but somehow he gets in there and trying to hijack the system from inside out.
Oh, interesting.
That's Gattaca.
Okay. Cool. And The Truman Show is also critical of capitalism and conservatism and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Right? So this guy is obviously kind of an outsider to the American system, so he might have a little more of a left-wing view that Americans wouldn't have.
At least he understands what is left-wing better because he's from a country that has left-wing policies.
Yeah. Okay, so quick summary. In the not-so-distant future, the world is divided into the super rich and the super poor. The poor slave away.
What? In the future? Wow. It's going to have... Such horrible things are going to happen in the future?
I know. The poor slave away their whole lives so the rich can live in luxury. I know, it's fantasy. Hard to believe. Justin Timberlake, who is poor, and Amanda Seyfried, who is rich, team up to overthrow the system and liberate the masses from poverty. I'm gonna let this voiceover explain what makes this movie sci-fi.
We're genetically engineered to stop aging at 25. The trouble is, we live only one more year. Unless we can get more time. Time is now the currency. We earn it and spend it. The rich can live forever. And the rest of us? I just want to wake up with more time on my hand than hours in the day.
That's the sci-fi mechanism of the movie. So everyone's physically 25 years old, but they have a glowy digital clock on their arm, and if they run out of time, they die. One way, this is really getting to what you were saying earlier, one way this metaphor really works is that it makes extreme inequality easier to grasp. I originally was going to do this calculation to show on this podcast how this works, but I was so floored by how crazy it is that I called my mom and I was like, hey, you're good at math. Can you check this for me? And she did it, and she was so completely floored that we were both just stunned. So let me just do it for you.
Okay.
All right. So for example, if you took the median American's net worth, so not the average, so it's not skewed by the billionaires, but the median, net worth is $192,000 per person, which is way more than a lot of people have. A lot of people don't have that, obviously, but that's the median. But let's just take that because it's going to show even more how insane this is. And we're going to compare it to Elon Musk's net worth of $420 billion. And we're going to turn it into time so that $1 equals 1 minute. Take a deep breath.
I know where it's headed already.
But do you really?
Yes, that's why I'm pissed. Translating it into time is very, very, just like that classic comparison, like 1 million seconds and 1 billion seconds. It's like I'm not going to remember the exact numbers, but 1 million seconds is like, like less than 2 weeks. And 1 billion seconds is like 35 years.
The median American would have 134 days, and Elon Musk would have 799,000 years. So if you need to just turn off the podcast, scream into a pillow, start a revolution, whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I feel like I need a break. Okay, so similarly in the movie, the poorest people literally have hours to live, while the richest are just immortal, basically.
Mm-hmm.
How much is he worth anyway?
Eons?
So it's an incredibly depressing, but also an extremely effective metaphor, because, yeah, that's pretty much how it would be.
Mm-hmm.
No one should be immortal if even one person has to die.
Communist.
Yeah. What an extreme thing to say. But it's funny because, as you mentioned earlier, this time concept is one of the only things that really makes this movie fictional. I mean, otherwise it's just a movie about our current actual reality.
They thought they're doing something extreme, but they just found a pretty accurate analogy to our current society.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the same time, the time concept is also like the most interesting thing about the movie in a way, because other than that, it's kind of, as you saw, it's like a pretty typical Hollywood sci-fi, like action hero kind of a movie. Mm-hmm. I wish it was better. I mean, it's not that good. One of the things that really doesn't work about the movie for me is just believing Justin Timberlake is like a blue-collar worker.
There's mass murder in the ghetto every day.
Okay, so just to highlight some of the concepts that the movie is introducing that we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
One is wealthy characters adopt an ideology of social Darwinism to justify the inequality that is blatantly all around them.
Of course, some think what we have is unfair. The time difference between zones. I've heard that. But isn't this just the next logical step in our evolution? And hasn't evolution always been unfair? It's always been survival of the fittest. This is merely Darwinian capitalism. Natural selection.
Absolutely. The strong survive.
Another theme is that the wealthy artificially keep prices high to keep the poor alive and working, but also powerless.
All they have to do is keep raising the cost of living. 100 years, 2, 1,000. It does nothing.
It's a little bit more on the like conspiracy end of things, I think, than just like critiquing the system. Just flagging that as like this idea that there's like a secret cabal of people doing, secret rich cabal of elites doing something. Like this movie has a little bit of that, which I would consider to be like a different category than the systemic critique category.
Yeah. Yeah, in this sense, it's funny because the concept of Gattaca is very similar, but it works so much better.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to check. That was in the 90s.
Yeah. That's in 97. And the other thing that I appreciated about that movie is just the design. Like the way they imagine what the future is going to look like in the 50s. That's the aesthetic of the movie. And this just looks really cool. Like they use the, my favorite car, the Citroen DS from 55, which looks very futuristic even today. And that's the car that they're driving in the future.
I think this movie also uses the Citroen
Really?
as the futuristic car,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
So he just remade that movie, but that was not an action movie. That's the other major difference between this and Gattaca. That is not action movie. That's more like a drama, pulpy drama, but drama.
Interesting. And then another theme, I think this is a very interesting one, is that the rich protect themselves from the poor through both the private sector with bodyguards and security, but also the public sector
Do you always have a hired hand standing right next to you?
No, I usually have two.
In Time, Cillian Murphy plays a timekeeper, which is a cop, who is obsessed with keeping the class hierarchy intact.
I am a timekeeper. I don't concern myself with justice.
So it's keeping those two things very separate, the idea of the police. They're using the police as a way to maintain the status quo, basically saying that they're being hired by, they're just another privatized force, basically, which is pretty...
Where did he get these crazy ideas from?
Culture, yeah. Can't imagine. In the end of the movie, they do manage to redistribute some of the wealth, kind of Robin Hood style, by robbing banks, basically. But we don't actually know if they're going to succeed in overthrowing the whole system, but we know they're gonna like die trying. Like the end of the movie is them like running into a bank to like the big bank to like rob it and distribute the money.
Flooding the wrong zone with 1,000,000 years. It could cripple the system.
Let's hope so.
No, it's just funny because the analogy is so on the nose, and as you mentioned, it's, you know, like apart from the time thing, it's so similar to our current society, so almost like entering Breakfast of Champions territory. My favorite fact about that book is that it's about planet Earth.
Oh, yeah.
But it's written like a sci-fi, and it's over describing things like how things work on planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is almost like that.
So it's not like a movie about worker revolution, because it's really just about these two kind of like Bonnie and Clyde style heroes liberating the masses. So in that way, it's almost just like any Marvel movie, because it's about heroes, which in itself is like a symptom of neoliberalism. That idea that like a hero is going to come and save people, like one individual person is going to come and save you, some special person. Rather than like an actual idea of like worker solidarity and revolution.
Yeah. Wow, you're really turning into a Marxist.
I know. It's this whole project of this podcast season is radicalizing me. Just watching these fucking movies and doing these calculations. Radicalizing my mom as well.
This movie made me want to rewatch Gattaca instead.
The last movie, and this is the one we're going to focus on the most, is Margin Call.
Margin Call.
Ever heard of it?
Doesn't ring a bell.
It's an ensemble cast that has a bunch of people in it. Kevin Spacey, Paul Bettany, Jeremy Irons, Demi Moore, Stanley Tucci's in it. It was
with glasses or with no glasses?
I can't recall that, but we'll check it out. Good question. Asking the important questions. It was written and directed by J.C. Chandor. It's totally his baby. He's not super well known. He did Triple Frontier. The movie that I really like that he did, we watched it together, A Most Violent Year. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, I remember that movie.
I really like that movie.
It was a good movie.
So, I am derailing from the criteria on this one a little bit. It's not one of the highest grossing movies by a long shot, but I'm going to explain why I think it still fits into my methodology here. So it completely shattered records for what's called a day and date release, which is when they release it on demand for home viewing at the same time that they release it in theaters. This was like a kind of a new thing at the time. There were so many articles about how the success of this movie is going to change everything for video on demand, which is funny because like streamers hadn't really taken off yet at the time. It was a fairly indie movie that had a very limited release in theaters, but it far exceeded expectations and made 6 times its cost. I think it kind of shows that there was this like bottom up like enthusiasm for this movie, And the themes of the movie are extremely clear from the trailer and the marketing. And I'm kind of like looking into more than just the box office numbers alone and trying to like pick the movies that I think are kind of showing something about the culture. As a side note, as we get into the streamers more, I'm going to have to start changing how I pick the movies we talk about, because especially as streamers start to release movies, the box office numbers are not going to be a good reflection of what's mainstream anymore. All right, let's watch the trailer for Margin Call.
The music is about to stop, and we're going to be left holding the biggest bag of odorous excrement ever assembled in the history of capitalism.
And Stanley Tucci. He's always the "and." Because he's famous enough to be put in that "and" category,
Yeah,
but he's never
the lead.
Never the lead.
Did he have glasses?
No, he had no glasses.
Okay.
I've seen it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I've seen it when it came out, and I barely remember.
Did you see it video on demand?
I think it was on HBO at my parents' house, but I'm not sure.
Cool. Quick summary. It's almost entirely set in the skyscraper of a Wall Street investment firm. It's fictionalized, but it could be any of the major players that caused the crisis. It's meant to be a dramatization of the events that occurred and the decisions that were made in the 24 hours leading up to the financial crisis. Since it's set in one building, it's mostly just dramatic scenes with talking and long monologues. It feels more like a play, actually, or like a chamber drama, you know. Of course, it's about finance, so there's a lot of people just like staring at computer monitors and saying like, this is really bad.
Is that figure right?
But overall, like, it's pretty compelling and it's well done. I would suggest it, I guess. All right, so a big theme in this movie is complicity. How it's not just one bad guy at the top, but how everyone down the ladder has different levels of power and choice, different incentives, different justifications for their actions. So we're going to go down the ladder from the top to the bottom and talk about each character. So, starting with the big boss of the investment company at the very top is Told.
Which actor? Jeremy Irons.
Okay, so the movie isn't saying that Told caused the financial crisis, but he's representative of those most powerful people who could have prevented the crisis, but chose to profit from it instead. He has access to the information that will allow him to know that the financial crisis is going to happen in advance. And he uses that knowledge to prey on people who don't have access to that information for his own gain and their loss.
And you're selling something that you know has no value.
So he's one of these guys, either Morgan or Stanley.
Yeah. If anyone is straightforwardly immoral in this movie, it's him. It's Told. He insists that he's not a cheater.
There are 3 ways to make a living in this business. Be first, be smarter, or cheat. No, I don't cheat.
And he has all kinds of ways of morally justifying his actions to himself.
We are selling to willing buyers at the current fair market price.
And he gives this speech about social Darwinism, how it's just natural. It's not his fault because it's just human nature.
It's not wrong, and it's certainly no different today than it's ever been. And you and I can't control it or stop it or even slow it. We even ever so slightly alter it. We just react. And we make a lot of money if we get it right. And we get left by the side of the road if we get it wrong. And there have always been, and there always will be, the same percentage of winners and losers, happy fucks and sad sacks, fat cats and starving dogs in this world.
It's so frustrating how social Darwinism is being interpreted as it's all natural, and just ignoring the fact that we formed societies in order to compete with other species more effectively. Applying that inside of the society, social Darwinism, like, it makes no fucking sense.
You're saying that our ability to form communities is our competitive advantage in the natural world.
Exactly.
Right. Not that we should then have a small ecosystem within our species where we all just fight each other.
That's such a common misunderstanding of competition in society.
Also was a part of Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, which was meant to be the left's response. But in this movie, I mean, yeah, like obviously it's criticizing this worldview.
Yeah.
So Told represents like the intellectual justification. Like he's the ideologue of this ladder, and he's at the top. Next down the ladder is Jared, played by Simon Baker.
Which one is Simon Baker?
He played the hot guy in Devil Wears Prada. Wait, let me find him. This guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think he's rather awkward looking. He was in some TV series.
Oh, okay.
Older ladies found him hot. Like he was.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like a, sex symbol for older ladies.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Anyway.
so that's Jared.
Yeah, so he's next. Jared represents just like pure survival capitalism. He doesn't try to intellectualize anything. He just wants to win. He doesn't need to feel good about it. He shamelessly sells out Sarah, who's Demi Moore's character.
Don't even think about fucking me on this. Because if we're going down, and you damn well know it'll be together.
No. I'm not sure that I do know that.
Next down the list is Sarah.
So I assume that's Demi Moore.
Yeah, you assume correctly because she's the only woman in this situation, which just seems accurate to me.
Yeah, seems like a very accurate gender representation there.
Yeah. So Told and Jared know that they have to publicly blame someone for the whole thing, so they choose her to take the fall. She's the only woman at the executive level. She represents somebody who knew what was happening and actually did try to stop it.
Of course, you're well aware that I filtered several warnings to you and Cohen about this a year ago.
But...
Was this a nod to Iceland?
What do you mean?
They had the most amount of women in government, and they're the only people who actually like jailed the bankers during the crisis. Which created this idea that if more women were in charge, they would have cared and gave a shit.
That's interesting. Yeah, because she's the only one who takes the fall.
Yeah.
So. But she's also happy to go along and profit when no one else will listen to her.
At the time, it didn't seem like there was much of a choice.
It never does.
So she's semi-sympathetic and she's semi-complicit. She's like, we're getting into the moral gray area as we go down the ladder.
Yeah.
Next is Will. That's Paul Bettany. He's like a higher up manager. Will has less knowledge and less power, so he's not as culpable as the other ones. But he completely admits that he's profiting from immoral and fucked up. He's just completely cynical and dead inside. He's like the cynic.
I've been at this company for 10 years and I've seen things you wouldn't believe.
It's also implied that he's suicidal because of the damage that this has done to his psyche.
Yeah, well, I'm a little dark sometimes.
Next level down is Eric. I might just keep calling him Stanley Tucci.
Can we just call him and Stanley Tucci?
And Stanley Tucci, yeah. And Stanley Tucci is the head of risk management. So he's more of a middle manager. He's not a hero, but he's definitely one of the more moral characters because you can't make Stanley Tucci not moral. But he's also relatively powerless. They try to buy his silence, and at first he resists.
Fuck them. Fuck them.
Don't be
Forget
rash.
it. I signed my paper. I am out. They got
They'll pay
nothing
you.
on me.
I'll pay you.
I've been paid enough already.
But eventually he also caves.
They told me they were going to drag me through hell on everything over the next 2 years. My options, my health care. Or I could come back here and make $176,471 an hour to sit quietly in this room. Didn't seem like much of a choice.
It never is.
There's a lot of talk of choice, so people are, there's a lot of like evoking of the neoliberal ideas of this as well. Then there's Sam, who is Kevin Spacey. He's arguably the main character because he actually has an arc. So he's been at the company for 34 years, and he clearly wants to believe that the whole enterprise is fair and honest and noble. He gives a lot of speeches to his employees about working hard and climbing the ladder.
I've been at this place 34 years. And I can tell you from experience that people are going to say some very nasty things about what we do here today and about what you dedicated a portion of your lives to. But have faith that in the bigger picture, our skills have not been wasted. We have accomplished much, and our talents have been used for the greater good.
But at the same time, he's been trying to ignore all the fucked up shit that's been happening around him for years.
I don't want to hear this. How do you think I've stuck around this place so long?
And then by the end of the movie, he realizes that there's nothing good or noble about what he's spent his life doing.
You're one of the luckiest guys in the world, Sam. Could have been digging ditches all these years.
That's true. And if I had, at least there'd be some holes in the ground to show for it.
So there are a few times in this movie where people talk about feeling alienated from the fruits of their labor. I know that's a very Marxist idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew when you said alienation, I already, the red star already appeared on your forehead. Can I have an observation?
Please.
To distinguish this movie from the rest of the movies, even the ones that were trying to be critical. It's showing the problem's complexity.
Yeah.
And it's way less about these individual choices and the evil versus good. All of them, they're just representing their function in the system. And if it was not them, then a different person would do exactly the same thing.
Yep.
Just the way we have to go through these names and just the way we have to approach analyzing this movie compared to the others just highlights why it's so much harder to make a movie that it's about systemic criticism.
Yeah, this is by far the most systemic criticism we've gotten in any of these movies by like a long shot. Okay, we got two more people left. There's Peter, played by the actor with the giant eyebrows. I don't know his name.
Oh, I don't know him.
I'll come back to Peter. Now I feel like I should say what these actors' names are, since I said everyone else's name. His name is Zachary Quinto.
Sure.
Okay, like I said, we're going to skip. He's like a lower level employee. We're going to skip him for now because I'm going to come back to him. And then at the very bottom of the ladder is Seth, played by Penn Badgley. Seth is at the very bottom. He's like a 23-year-old finance bro who's just like excited to get started and make lots of money, but he's just like in the wrong place at the wrong time, ends up getting fired and crying in the bathroom. Oh, God. Okay, so that's the complicity theme. So there are some other themes I want to mention. One thing that I really love is that whenever they need to explain some complicated financial thing in the movie, which they have to do a lot, the executives ask one of the lower level employees to explain it because it's like the ones at the lowest level who have the actual skills.
I frankly don't even know what it is you guys do.
I have experienced this in an office. I had a colleague and she was really, really irritated by one of the bosses, and whenever that boss came by, she just turned up her use of terminology to a level that he couldn't follow anymore what she's talking about. So he left before he would embarrass himself.
Wow, that's kind of brilliant. Also similar to In Time, this movie repeatedly informs the audience just how much money these people make.
What do you guys think Told made last year?
Will you shut the fuck up?
86 million. and bonuses and salary.
Really?
Sure, it's public record.
And it's a lot of fucking money.
As all of this bullshit is happening and things are falling down around them and they're making these horrible choices, they just keep reminding us how much money they're making. And then lastly, the movie highlights how there's not only was there no accountability, Told actually makes money from the crisis.
There's going to be a lot of money to be made coming out of this mess, and we're going to need all the brains we can get around here.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Like that's usually the outcome of any crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it isn't clear to me what, if anything, this movie is suggesting that we do about these problems. Like, it's not clear if it's saying the solution is more like about accountability or oversight or incentives or regulation or like about individual moral choices even. But that's, it's cool if this movie doesn't have a prescription and it's just supposed to like expose and educate people about it. But at times it does seem like it's trying to prescribe something. So that part of it does seem a little bit half-baked to me. I do think that this movie kind of does what Wall Street Money Never Sleeps does, where it tries to say that everybody, or at least everybody in the first world, is sort of sharing the blame for the crisis. So yeah, there's the scene between Seth and Will, where Will talks to Seth about Paul Bettany talks to the youngest lower level employee about his view of what's happening. So let's watch that scene.
It's just, while you're looking, like, it just reminds me of this thing that is like somewhat triggering to me, that there's this guy Seth who loses his job. And actually, like, that's probably like, it's a major crisis to lose your job. And then there's Stanley Tucci's character and Stanley Tucci's character. On their personal level, each of these characters, it makes sense that they make the wrong decision. Because, of course, like Stanley Tucci's financial sacrifice still wouldn't put him even close to the level as this other guy, Seth's situation is. Like, he would be fine financially. Like, he would say, like, oh, they would make his life, like hell and, like blah, blah, blah. But what do we actually talking about?
Yeah.
That he would have to, like, live in suburbia in a nice house and could only afford 2 cars and a boat?
Right, because
like that,
we see that he lives in, like, a brownstone, like a nice brownstone in New York. So, like he's clearly has enough
his
money.
fall is still well above the average American.
Yeah.
But also it makes sense. Like, I can't say that if I was in his situation, like, I would definitely make that moral choice.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not saying like, oh, I'm just going to quit being a millionaire and I'm just going to be upper middle class for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because that's what's morally right. Like, like when you get used to your surroundings, you have this illusion that you deserved it.
I hope from this podcast that it's clear that, like, I'm not taking the moral high ground.
Yeah, me too. And that's exactly why I think this type of systemic criticism is important, because it's not about the individual choices.
If we're all individually just trying to survive, then I'm going to act like all these other people act.
Yeah, because that's exactly how the system works.
Right. It incentivizes you to just think of yourself.
Everybody's just trying to make a buck.
Right. All right, let's watch that clip now.
Shit, this is really gonna affect people.
Yeah, it's gonna affect people like me.
Real people.
Jesus, Seth. Listen, if you really want to do this with your life, you have to believe you're necessary, and you are. People want to live like this in their cars and their big fucking houses they can't even pay for, then you're necessary. The only reason that they all get to continue living like kings is because we got our fingers on the scales in their favor. I take my hand off, when then the whole world gets really fucking fair, really fucking quickly, and nobody actually wants that. They say they do, but they don't. They want what we have to give them, but they also want to, play innocent and pretend they have no idea where it came from. Well, that's more hypocrisy than I'm willing to swallow, so fuck normal people.
So it's basically just, like a more explicit version of the cynicism of Wall Street Money Never Sleeps.
Yeah, I see it as like that he's saying that everyone is complicit in this. all the people in the first world, at least, are complicit in this. To me, that seems more like to deny that massive inequality and massive power inequality and knowledge inequality. And I'm not saying that, like, we've invested money. That money gets invested for us. Part of that investment is like oil and gas and fucked up shit. So from that angle, I agree with what he's saying, that like people who can afford this, like at all levels, we just like turn a blind eye. We say, you deal with the moral implications, put someone in the middle, and then we won't get blamed. But he says, he specifically cites people buying houses and cars. And I just feel like he's saying that someone buying a larger house because the bank made that option available to them somehow makes them ethically complicit in the global financial crisis. And that just seems a little ridiculous to me.
It was a very typical criticism specifically from that class, that they're just like blaming people who were buying shit that they couldn't afford, therefore it's their fault. But those people has been fed with this propaganda and commercials constantly over and over again that you can afford this, you deserve this, it's a great deal, do it now.
Right.
That shit is going on for a good decade, and then when the shit hits the fan, these motherfuckers just say like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have bought a house that you couldn't afford. You fucking told me I can afford this.
Right, exactly. Like,
you told me that I can afford this and I deserve this.
Yeah. Like, people are hiring financial advisors that are giving them this advice. Like, they don't have access to this information. They're hiring somebody to find this information for them.
Yeah, that's the service he's doing.
Yeah, so... And I know you could say, like, oh, this is just what this character Will thinks and not what the movie thinks. But one, Will is supposed to be like a wise character, and in all other parts of the movie, he's like someone who's fairly like wise and really understands what's going on, and like he gets it. And so I think it is the movie talking. And two, and I don't usually use this, but I watched a bunch of interviews about this movie with the director, and he does have like his personal worldview supports this.
Like this is what liberals, generally speaking, say about what caused the crisis and what were the dynamics of it.
But I think that it, you know, there's other scenes that are showing the systemic criticism worldview, and I think that those are kind of incompatible, but it kind of is trying to have both at the same time.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, classic victim blaming.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about the economical crisis, like this is just like a note that you would make.
Yeah.
Just like put there. But we're all responsible.
Right. That's how it feels in the movie because it doesn't come up again.
We all kind of like signed this agreement. This is the moral of the story. Ultimately, that's the liberal narrative about the financial crisis.
Another thing is that the movie never talks about actual regular people. I know he says it there. Seth says like, oh, it's really going to affect people. And Will says, yeah, people like me. And he goes, no, regular people. And then Will goes on a rant about regular people and how they're also responsible. And I'm like, no, regular people, you know, like who don't own real estate. Like a lot of regular people don't own real estate, even if we're implicating people who buy houses and cars in this.
Yeah.
You know, like we still got a lot of other people who were affected by this. It undercuts the rest of the message of the movie, I think. The last thing I wanted to point out is that this movie by far has the darkest ending we've seen so far, because we were kind of talking about like happy endings, Hollywood endings, how a lot of these neoliberal movies have like super happy Hollywood endings. And this one is kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum. It's very dark. For one thing, we know that the financial crisis is about to start at the end of the movie. So that in itself is pretty dark. But also there are two characters that we're most invested in. There's Sam and there's Peter. Sam, Kevin Spacey's character. So yeah, he had this illusion that the thing that he spent 34 years of his life doing was like dignified, and he was providing a service, building loyalty and trust. And by the end of the movie, he's completely disillusioned.
Well, you're obviously operating with more information than I have. But I think this will destroy this firm. No one will ever trust you again. You're knowingly putting people out of business, full stop.
You let me deal with that, Sam.
The final scene is of him burying his dog that, like, coincidentally died during the whole thing. He's burying the dog in his ex-wife's backyard. It's like a subplot of the movie. And then when, like, the credits roll at the end, we just hear the sound of his shovel digging this grave. It's like, you know, it's metaphorical, but it's like pretty heavy, dark ending.
Yeah.
It's just silence.
It's
and
a very European movie ending that there's no soundtrack. You just let the sound of the surroundings.
Yeah.
You know, like during the end credits.
So that's the end of the movie. There's also Peter, who I didn't talk about before because I'm going to talk about it now. So Peter is like pretty low level, higher than Seth. He's in his, like, Seth's 23. Peter's like in his later 20s. He's like a math nerd. He's not particularly ambitious. He's just kind of there to make a living. And he's friends with Seth, and and Stanley Tucci was kind of his mentor. So at the beginning, he's one of the, like, less powerful, more moral characters that we actually, like, connect to. And he's also the one who sounds the alarm about the impending collapse. So we're waiting to see the whole movie, like, are they going to shoot the messenger? Is he going to get fired too? But by the end of the movie, he's kind of, like, proven his loyalty and his usefulness to the executives.
You gonna keep the kid?
Keep him. He's getting promoted.
The last we see of him is Jared, like, kind of giving him a little love tap on the arm. I love that that's the end for his character. It's extremely dark, but I think it's cool because he, like, has turned to the dark side. He's going to become one of them.
Yeah.
And because he's proven his loyalty and his usefulness to them. But they don't really make a dramatic deal out of it, and I kind of wish we got more of a punch at that point.
Yeah.
Would have been cool. So yeah, overall, this movie introduces a lot of new ideas. I think it's part of this successful wave of movies and books and documentaries that at that time that were, like, attempting to explain what happened to the public, and they were really successful because people really wanted to know. Clearly from the marketing, it's offering a story about corruption and villains and bad guys. This is going to ring all the bells for you, but, like, there was a backlash to this movie from people on the left because not everyone, but
By
certain
left,
people.
Who do you mean left?
Democrats, whatever, you know, because it humanized the executives too much and it didn't demonize them more.
Like it's a very typical cultural issue I have with American liberals, that they always choose to demonize and
dehumanize.
And dehumanize. We just can't show the complexity of characters, and everything has to be divided to good people and bad people.
Yeah. And it, like, goes hand in hand with the revenge thing as well. Like, if there's bad people and we get rid of them, then everything's great and we can be happy. And that's, you know, that's the opposite of a systemic criticism.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to try to wrap this up. Also, this was definitely a year of super mixed messages just in general that were just, like, I would put into the category of, like, confused neoliberal, like Limitless and We Bought a Zoo, two movies that I could do whole bonus episodes just on these movies because they're just, like, all over the place, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
We Bought a Zoo.
Yeah. So we kind of have a spectrum, and I'm going to make a little chart, but I'm going to describe it. It has 4 quadrants, and how would you describe this? It's just there's an X and Y axis.
Yeah.
And they're crossing in the middle, but we can see all 4 quadrants.
Exactly like that.
Yeah. The top of the vertical axis is violence, and the bottom of the vertical axis is non-violence.
You mean peace?
I wouldn't go that far. And then the left of the x-axis is individual, and the right of the horizontal axis is systemic.
Okay, so yeah, the left wing is on the right and the right wing is on the left. And,
should I flip it?
No, it's okay.
Okay. One ideology, saying that there's a handful of evil people and we should just murder them. And like that can be a way to either remove them from power or as a deterrence to other evil people or just revenge. Kind of could have different reasons. Horrible bosses is the only one that is basically saying that. But like I said, it's kind of mixed. There's different messages, and it's also kind of like a joke. It's not meant to be taken that seriously. So I would put horrible bosses in it's here.
So horrible bosses is the violent individual focused.
Yes.
One.
But it's not very high on the violence. It's close to the line between violence and non-violence, but it's on the violent side and it's on the individual side.
Dear listeners, grab paper and pencil. We're going to do this exercise. Understanding movies on the XY axis.
I'm going to do a TED Talk about this. Next ideology. Saying that the problem is a culture of irresponsibility and greed, and we should all just be better people and be less greedy. That's kind of that same Wall Street / margin call, even up in the air kind of. That's in the individual nonviolent quadrant. But then there's also saying that the problem is our current system and we need to strengthen our institutions, have better regulation, change laws, have better accountability in a nonviolent way. I think that is mostly what margin call thinks, but also a little bit of the individual. So I'm putting margin call in the nonviolent section, right in the middle between individual and systemic. Then they're saying that the problem is free market capitalism and the entire system in general, and that it really needs to be completely dismantled and rebuilt at every level by any means necessary, including violence. This is represented by In Time. So that puts In Time in the violent systemic quadrant.
So that movie is Stalin in this in this system.
Sure. We could put lots of we could really fill this out.
So yeah, In Time is Stalin. Margin call is like, I don't know, like...
No, I think margin call is like Obama and Democrats, American Democrats.
Okay. No, that's good.
Okay. Lastly,
centrist mainstream.
Centrist mainstream. Okay, then they're saying that the problem is free market capitalism and the entire system in general, and it really needs to be completely dismantled and rebuilt at every level, but also in a nonviolent way through solidarity and political power. And none of the movies are there.
I'm very, very comfortable by now and very familiar with the feeling that this particular ideology has no representation whatsoever.
But it's not a movie, but I would say Occupy Wall Street is in the systemic nonviolent section.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Wall Street is in this one. Individual nonviolent. Individual nonviolent is liberalism, neoliberalism.
Yeah.
Violent individual is revenge people. I don't know, like people who
fascism. It's called fascism.
Oh, yeah. They're not systemic.
No, not necessarily. The solutions that fascism provides are usually individual. Kill these people and we're gonna be fine.
Well,
whatever.
Anyway, let me just summarize where the movies are, because I think that might have gotten lost. We've got in the violent individual quadrant, which is quadrant number 1, the left top, horrible bosses. In quadrant number 2, violent systemic, it is in time. That's the top right. In the systemic nonviolent is nothing. That's the bottom right.
And that's exactly the problem.
And on the line of individual, between individual and systemic, in the nonviolent section, that's the bottom center, is margin call. And on the bottom left, that's individual and nonviolent, is Wall Street Money Never Sleeps.
Perfect.
Thank you. And yeah, we'll be heading into 2012 next.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
What should we call this compass?
I don't know. It's very disorienting to me that the left and right are switched, but
Oh, it's too late now.
yeah. But it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's never gonna take off. Thanks for listening to Postscript. The music for this episode was created by my brother, Graham. If you want to reach any of us, you can email postscriptcast@gmail.com.
Postscriptcast@gmail.com.